Welcome to the Weekly Woodcast with Dennis and Michael Woodworth, and we have some special guests here this evening for a special night. It's opening night of Fishbowl Fridays, sponsored by Boston Pizza. And three of my favorite guests that we've had on in previous episodes are going to be with us on a weekly basis. We'll probably have some people shift out here and there because we obviously can't be scheduled for every Friday night, but certainly we'll make as many as we can. All right. To my immediate left is Barry Gillis, who is one of the smartest men I've ever met in regards to sports, and especially baseball. A historian, and you're going to see that episode coming up shortly on the Weekly Woodcast. Straight across from me on the table is our Earth is Flat expert, Glenn Carey, that talks about a lot of different subjects, and I'm sure we're going to have some conversation with that tonight. And to Glenn's right and to my left across the table is Megan Walker, who is the actual founder of the Fishbowl Fridays. She's the one to come up with the idea.
Not the Boston Pizza Fishbowl Friday.
And Megan is the most popular individual here at the table because she has almost 200,000 followers on TikTok. So I'm very pleased to say that. And of course,
you're welcome.
That's so cool.
There you go.
I don't even know.
There's Megan Walker right there. Megan Walker 3.
Oh, if 90.8.
If you're on TikTok, there you go. Right. So that's what you got at the table tonight. We have some people in the studio around us. You may see some of them kind of slide in and out, just trying to avoid the microphones. But certainly, we're all here tonight to have a great time and answer some questions. So here's the protocol for tonight. Is in one of the fish bowls, we're going to have 9 questions that we're all going to discuss as from our perspective, from our information that we have in our knowledge base. And we want to encourage our listeners to do one of 3 things. Number 1, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube and also like the Facebook page as well as join us on Spotify or on Apple. So you can do those things, and as well, when you engage in conversation by making comments or suggestions, that gives you an opportunity to win a $30 gift certificate from Boston Pizza right here in the Bridgewater area. So, without further ado, let's start off tonight's first question. Megan's going to reach into the fishbowl.
God, please make it something about Jason Momoa.
Oh, I could talk about Jason Momoa all day.
Ay.
You know, I met Jason Momoa.
I believe you. You got more followers than he does on TikTok.
All right, first question. What decade would you want to grow up in?
Oh, there's a question. That's a good question.
What decade?
What decade would you like to grow up in? So, Megan, you were a late 80s, early 90s girl. Barry, you were a late 70s, early 80s guy, right? Glenn and I grew up exactly at the same time in the complete 80s, really. I mean, 70s, we were young kids, but as teenagers.
I was more or less 70s. I turned 6 in 1970s.
Exactly. So let's talk about that. I mean, we have a lot of different decades that you could possibly look at of where you'd want to grow up. And technology is a big part of it. Popular music could be a big part of it. We all grew up on certain types of music that we really enjoyed. Automobiles could be a part of it. Travel could be a part of it. It was, there's a lot of things that come into the equation. So, Barry, what comes to mind right away for you?
Well, for me, it isn't so much what decade I'd like to grow up in, but I'd love to go back to when I was 13 and start over.
Really? Why is that? Why? Why 13?
Well, 13. I mean, it's just a number. It could be 12, could be 10, but
start over, but knowing everything you know now.
Yes.
Oh, come on, man. That's not right.
Yeah.
That's not right. You can't.
With all the wisdom I obviously have now.
Yeah, you'd be Bill Gates.
I'm older than the rest of you guys.
Jeff Bezos. You'd be all of them combined because you know all of them. You'd be Back to the Future with
being able to start over. Would make the junior high years a lot easier for most people.
True, but then you wouldn't be who you are today.
Yeah.
I'd go back, but I'd go back knowing everything I know today and still do everything the same.
Very cool.
Well, only because everything I did led me to where I am. And I
Very
wouldn't,
cool.
I wouldn't
Very cool.
change that. Yeah. And with 2 boys, right?
Wells up right there, right?
And 2 boys, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We had that discussion. I made lots of mistakes in my life, but
who doesn't?
I wouldn't have made those mistakes.
100%.
I probably wouldn't have taken the path that eventually led me to me being completely, absolutely.
So you're absolutely 100% happy that you grew up in the 80s and 90s and you're good with it?
My decade would be late 80s, early 90s. If I could make that the decade,
Yep.
Jelly shoes, banana clips.
Yeah, what did you
hair
like about
metal. Oh my God, Skid Row, Poison,
Skid
Bon
Row,
Jovi,
18
oh my
in
gosh.
life.
Yes, I remember you, Bon Jovi. I
Yeah.
mean, who doesn't like some JBJ? I mean, if I could just go to some JBJ concerts with all old school JBJ, that's what we call John Bon Jovi.
No,
But
I
if you're
get it. Thank
taking
you.
music,
I'm not
Megan,
I'm not the guy that's 60 years old over here. He's
No, he's
I'm not
he's
the
the
guy who's
music
60
guy.
years old either.
He's the music guy.
But the thing is, though, if you're talking music, though,
John.
you have
Benet?
to say the
No.
60s, don't you? I mean,
No.
really, it's the 50s and 60s.
I don't.
They essentially set everything up for later years. Like
I agree, but I like the music better that I listen to than the 60s music, even though the 60s music led to what I like. So you're right. It kind of laid the basis, but I like the music later.
so,
But I agree.
yeah. So I guess to the original intent of the question, if you're starting over with no memories and you're just being born, then I'd probably be looking at 80s.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because all the stuff I enjoyed in the 60s and 70s is still there for you in the 80s. And yet you get to start the 80s when technology starts to increase and you get more options on what you can do for fun and everything else.
Glenn?
I've always thought it would be really cool to sail the open seas as a pirate, but I don't know if I want to grow up in that because that's probably
No, you
rough.
wouldn't live long, man.
But what happens when you crash into the wall that's
Uh-oh.
holding the
Well,
ocean up?
Well, we can talk about that
That's a
later.
topic
That's a whole
coming
nother
later,
time.
man.
And then I've always thought it would be really cool to kind of grow up as a pioneer and go out and I love the outdoors, but I mean,
Oh,
you didn't
wanna
have
go
any
way
tools.
back.
Well, pirates are before pioneers.
Well,
I
no,
think.
but even pioneers, you want to go way. I'm thinking like 60s,
Yeah,
70s,
well,
80s.
Yeah,
And
look, that's
then
the
when
valid point.
When I look at my life, like I kind of am like there was an innocence that still existed in the late 70s when we were kids,
Right.
and in the 80s that I don't think exists anymore.
No.
Like this is a different time now than it was when we grew up completely. I don't want to go back. I think life would be too hard as a pirate or a pioneer, but if I could freeze 10 years of my life, but almost kind of be my age that I am now and go back, I would totally go back and do the 80s again.
Yeah.
I didn't really like being 13. Like junior high is just really yucky in
Junior
a lot
high
of different
sucks.
ways.
Junior high sucks for everyone, though.
See, it didn't bother me at all. Not one bit. I learned so much about relationships. I learned, and especially with girls. Like when you come out of elementary school, you know nothing, right? And
Still know nothing.
Then
in
you're a
junior
genius in
high.
grade
but you start. I mean, you start from zero in elementary school. But when you get to grade 7, which is 13, you're really starting to evolve and change and learn. And I love that part of life, learning every day, really.
Yep.
And relationships are a big part of my life. So I actually, it was awkward, but I loved it.
Oh, I love junior high and high school, but I wouldn't say that it's like.
It's not easy.
Yeah, I think that's what we're saying. I mean,
Yeah,
It's
not
hard
easy.
as a
now.
teenager, it's worse now. I would
right
never
now.
pick this decade, even though technology is amazing and
Yeah.
it's all.
You have no privacy.
It's amazing, but it's not better. Like
No.
this is the issue
No.
that kids have everything at their fingertips like that, and they know how to go get it
Instant
like better than
gratification.
we do.
Yeah.
We had to like open a dictionary or open an encyclopedia or actually use something to do long division and math on. And there was something to that, like learning to use your hands to work things out. Kids don't do that anymore. They go
can't
beep, beep, beep,
problem
beep, beep, beep.
They need the
can't.
answer
Yeah.
immediately, and if they don't
Yeah.
have it, they don't know what to do. Where we were kind of just.
Yes, they do. Google.
Dad. Dad, how do I change the oil? Siri. Siri, where did I leave my socks?
You're
No,
right.
you're
I
right.
mean, they don't.
So definitely 80s. And
For me, I love the 80s too, but I really thought about this. I really loved to grow up in the 50s. The reason why is that the family unit was the most important thing. Only mom or dad had to go to work. So you always, when you come home from school, when you're there in the evening, you had a mentor there. You had somebody there to look after things. And then my mother actually, until 1982, actually stayed in the home. But in 82, she had to go to work. So music was, like Barry said, rock and roll was a foundation then. Even country music with Hank Williams started then. There was no hip hop, obviously. That started in the 70s, late 70s. But the thing that was, the life was so simplistic. It wasn't complicated. You didn't have 1,000 things a day you had to do. You really just, if you were in school, you were playing school sports or you were in clubs, whatever the case may be, but you didn't have all these distractions wrapped around it that
You also
consumed so
didn't
much of your
have
time.
education on same-sex marriage. People did not get divorced; they stayed married. Simply to stay
That's
married,
part of
and
it. I understand that,
kids
Meg.
were not
yeah,
educated.
no,
People of color were not given.
No,
right?
I
So
agree.
Yeah,
I mean, I
the
think
50s that Dennis is talking about
is
is
the
the
white,
idyllic
cis
one.
male
It's the one that you saw on
50s.
TV
Right.
watching
Now,
television.
having
about
said
50s
that,
families.
if I actually telepathically went into the 50s, I could actually change some of those things along the way.
I think if you went to the 50s knowing what you did now and tried as an individual white male to do that, you would fail horrifically.
I don't know.
I think you would
I'm one
try,
stubborn
but
human being. But you're right. We had a lot of situations at that time that
yeah.
we had a lot to learn in society. There's no question.
And the problem
question.
is, even though we learn those lessons, there are many people that want to take us back.
Yes.
Yep. Valid point. All right. Second question. Let's go.
Dennis.
No, it's your show, Megan.
Yeah.
All right, well, let me.
Fishbowl Fridays, sponsored by Boston
Could we
Pizza.
get a fishbowl with
question.
a bigger opening next time so that Megan doesn't have to almost break her
No,
fingers
no,
every
come
time?
on now. Come on.
All right, why am I nervous every time I open this?
Yeah.
Oh, there's some different ones.
You think you're
God.
nervous every time?
There's some
one comes
different
over?
ones.
Oh, come on! I knew this
What is
one
it?
was coming.
What is it?
I say we do pass the fishbowl around.
What is it?
Yes, and I say that Glenn reads this one.
Okay, Glenn, go ahead.
There
You
go,
read
Glenn.
it. This could be your question. What is it?
It says the Earth flat or round.
Oh, here we go. This was an actual
Dennis, I
episode that
think
came
you're-
out.
I think you're bullying me right now.
No, this episode came out on Wednesday. It's a very popular episode. I've had a lot of conversation with people about it in the community, and I know Megan and Barry specifically have some questions or comments they'd like to make. So, first of all, how many people here, raise your hand, think the Earth is flat? Okay, how many think the Earth is round? Okay, well, now you've got.
Can we change that though?
What?
Two different questions. How many people think the Earth is flat, and how many people know the Earth is round?
Oh, yes, my man.
Glenn, you start.
fine.
Now, you have,
What do I-
this
what
is
do
a
I-
condensed version, all right? Because
What do you want
we
me to
spent
start
2
with? I
hours.
mean-
Well, whatever you want. It's your floor.
It's very simple. I just when I started to
Make a
look
strong
into a lot
case.
of different
Yeah.
things. I don't have time to make a strong case.
Okay,
because
well-
Okay, so can I
this
just
is
ask
such a
a
big
question?
Yeah, go
please,
ahead.
I think that's a better
Okay.
thing. Is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
ask me some questions.
Sure.
Let me see if I can
Absolutely.
All right.
So, I need you to tell me that you think that if the Earth is flat, you could go to, and I apologize, maybe you can bring it up. Who was the teacher who died in the explosion in the 80s when we were all in school and had to sit there and watch the shuttle crash?
Catherine McCauley.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Catherine, yeah.
So you're telling me if you went to her family's house right now, she'd be alive, and you would be looking at that family and telling them your daughter did not die. This was all a hoax fabricated so that we would think the Earth is round.
Oh no, I believe that the space shuttles took off. I believe that they were in the air and in the atmosphere.
Okay.
And I believe there's a lot of things that are done that are real. But I think that the
So do you think the International Space Station is not there?
no, I think the International Space Station it's actually a thing.
Okay.
I don't think it's where they tell us it is.
Okay, so do you think all the pictures they take from the space station are not real?
I think that they're fabricated and doctored, yes.
But only the pictures of Earth, not all the other planets they take photos of? Or
I think all of them are fabricated.
Okay.
Barry?
Yeah.
Barry's the engineer.
Yeah. And here's my thoughts on this concept. I mean, it's a thought that's been around for many years, and I think there's like an organized group of people, Flat Earth Society, is it not? That
Yes, there's also a documentary on
Yeah.
Netflix.
yeah. And the thing is, for me, it's similar to me for religion.
Right?
If believing in it makes you happy, makes you a better person, and makes you more comfortable with yourself, then by all means, it's like any belief or faith type of system. To go more for a science-based question rather than just that comment. So I'm unclear how the sun works.
Mhm.
Well, I know how the sun works, but
I was going to say, wait a minute, you're the engineer. We need to back up.
in the flat Earth concept, right? I mean, I can watch golf in California at 6:00 at night here, and it's dark
Sure.
and it's light over there.
Mhm.
I just don't see any concept how that works.
Well,
if the Earth is completely
sure.
flat and the sun is sitting on top of it, essentially you're lighting up the whole surface.
Like a light bulb
Perhaps.
over top of
Perhaps,
the
but
table.
the Earth is big. Like I don't want you to think that I think the Earth is small. It's vast. The Earth is extremely vast. The sun is not, in this construct, what the heliocentric model of the universe says it is. It's not this massive ball of light. It's a large celestial body that casts light. And the best way to look at it is it's kind of like a shrouded lamp that moves around this vast surface. And light doesn't go forever, especially through an atmosphere. It will lose its power.
Similar to a light bulb, right? If it's a 40-watt light bulb, it could light a part of the room, but not the whole room.
Yes. And we do have limits to our vision. And our vision does, at distance, lose the ability to have fine detail in our human vision. Sight lines are if you look at anyone that does any art, they understand the way that when you move away from things, things get smaller and smaller and smaller as you go away. I don't know the answer, Barry. Like, what I do know is that I don't believe that the Earth is 93 million miles away from the sun. I don't believe that the Earth moves at the vast amounts of speeds that they tell us to, because there's one star in the sky that doesn't move ever. It's always above that spot in the Earth. It's always in the same space in the sky all the time. And the rest of them rotate around that. But their relationship to that star never changes. But space is ever expanding. There's just, when I look at this, look, you don't have to convince me that the Earth is a globe. I believed it for 50 years. You don't have to believe, I believed this concept for 50 years until somebody asked me questions and I couldn't answer them. And when I started to ask the questions and look into it, I just came up with a list that was too long for me to ignore. And does it matter in the end of the day? To me, it does. To me, it's a message from God. And when we hide ourselves in a massive, ever-expanding universe, we're small. And it creates an insignificance in our mind. And for me, I believe that God loves us, all of us, every one of us. And he created this especially for us and not for anybody else. And if that makes me sound a little kooky, trust me, I've laid in bed at night wondering if I should ever speak up about this.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I've had people
A few.
give me that look, but it's okay. It's okay because
Look, man, but we are small. Like, the universe we are small, but that doesn't mean that because one solar system, sun-centered, whatever, we're not Earth-centered. Everything doesn't revolve around us.
I think it does.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like,
Barry?
Yeah, no, I mean,
we can still hang out. And
Yeah,
have
yeah.
Fridays.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You guys are co-hosts. Yeah.
We can.
So, yeah. Anyway, it's interesting because you talked about the research you've done and everything else, yet you couldn't answer my question. So,
Well, can you tell me the way the sun works in the heliocentric model of the universe? What is the sun? A big ball of gas that does what?
That will eventually burn out in about 10 million years when the gases in it it becomes extinct. And then
And why do you believe that?
have you taken chemistry or physics or anything to do about gases? And gases will burn out.
Don't answer me with a question. Like, why
I'm
do you
ta-
believe that?
Because I was taught that in school, and I've seen scientific evidence that
What's
gases
the scientific?
burn
Okay, of
out.
course they do. Gases burn
Okay.
out. But what is the scientific evidence that the sun is a ball of gas?
I have seen pictures from the International Space Station that I believe is actually in space.
Okay.
So the biggest part of your belief that the Earth is flat is that all the evidence that exists in science that completely disputes it is set up by someone to make people think that the Earth. What's the value in trying to make people think the Earth is a globe when it's flat? Why would people want to do that?
Mislead you.
Yeah.
Mislead you
That's
into
a good
what?
question.
That's a good question.
But for
That's a
what?
good question.
But for what
I like
benefit?
it.
Why?
What
Why?
benefit? What benefit you get from that? Ha ha. I mean that's.
Well, I don't think it's a ha-ha. I think it's a lot more dark than that, to be honest. I think that as human beings, we all seek. I shouldn't say that. I don't know that we all seek. I know that I seek a relationship with God. I didn't know what I was seeking for a long time in my life. But it ended up, when that got filled, it was because I I found a relationship with God. And I think that, and I'll go even further if you want to, I think that evolution is part of this. The Big Bang is part of this. The heliocentric model of the universe is part of this. And it's designed to hide God from us. It's designed to have a different answer for where we came from. And I don't think it's a ha-ha at all. I think it's satanic. And I think that it's designed to separate us from God and his love.
But how does it do that? I mean,
because it gives an alternate. God created the heaven and the earth. He spoke and we started. And when you have a different explanation, you take away who he actually is and who he should be to us. And look, I'm not here to convince you.
Yeah,
that
no,
the earth
I know
is
that.
flat.
Glenn.
I'm not
I
here
know.
to convince anybody.
No, and Glenn, you're not going to convince
and
me.
that's fine.
So I can save you that time. But
Barry,
honestly,
the only one that convinced you is you. Like and this curiosity came up in me.
Yeah, and the thing is, like I said before, I mean, I'll respect for your belief, and you're strong in it, and you're not using your belief to hurt anyone.
No.
So,
goodness no.
that's fine. I just think you're wrong.
That's okay.
All. And not disrespectfully. I mean, there's so many other questions. I mean,
Dennis cheers for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
People like
he's wrong too.
Galileo and early astronomy experts. I mean, they are able to look and define relationships and predict where the next planet was going to be found, knowing that this planet should be here based on the calculations. It's not. It means there's another body out there, and the body has to be about this size. And if we look in this location in the sky a year and 7 days from now at 10:30, we're going to find it. And they'd find it.
There are several people of note. There are several experiments. I've recently just started. I don't have these all committed to memory. Maybe what I have to do is come back and talk to Dennis and have a list of things when I come here, and we can kind of go through some of these things if people are interested in this. If they're not, that's fine. We don't have to.
We've had a lot of engagement. We have had a lot of engagement on our channel for it. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I enjoy listening to people explain their beliefs, whatever they happen to be. It's knowledge, and knowledge is power. And Dennis knows. I love reading.
He does.
I used to remember everything.
Without question.
That's not the case
and
anymore.
I'm the same way. That's why I kind of have my list now. When I was younger, in the 80s, I can
Megan,
remember.
you
That's
still
why I wanna
remember
go back
everything,
in the
right?
80s.
What?
You still remember everything.
But my last
as of
technical,
now.
like science-based question is, how deep does the Earth go?
As in how deep,
How deep?
is it?
Where does it go forever? Does it end somewhere and it's just, and what's on the other side?
Would you like to know what I believe based on biblical passages?
What do you believe, Glenn? Based on your beliefs.
I mean, honestly, it's, well, again, you're not trying to convince me.
No, I'm not.
Because quoting biblical passages never convinces me of anything. But yeah, I mean, you can throw that at me, but I'm just, rather than throw the biblical passages at me, if you can just tell me what you think it is, I don't need to know the biblical passages. But
so how deep does the Earth go?
I mean,
like
how I mean, if you started digging now, and you had the ability to keep, but does the Earth is the Earth sitting on a solid table like type of thing, and here's the Earth sitting on top of it?
Well, actually, you have to flip this upside down and kind of, the construct of it is that we're in a dome. There's a dome. It's called the firmament in scriptures, and within that firmament exist the celestial bodies, and they do move. There's a pattern that they move around the Earth on, and underneath it. And this isn't a good, like, I don't know.
We'll bring it. Yeah, go ahead, Michael. Bring it up.
None of these models are like, they're all man-made constructs of what we think it is, but nobody's really able to tell you unless you bring in what the scripture says and you can set it up. But yes, there are foundations that the Earth sits on.
Yeah.
And we're not going, people think that, and I had this happen in the locker room the other day where I went in and they said, so you think we're like a flat disc floating around space? And that's not it. I think space is a construct. And I'm not, like, when I say that, I say it completely in love. Like there's a lot of thought behind my coming to believe this. I am not somebody that makes rash judgments. And what happened with me is I started to make a checklist, And my checklist just got too long for me to say, well, this is not something I can not look into anymore.
Yeah, but you could put literally a checklist of questions.
Oh, I did.
On anything.
Mm-hmm.
Cork.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? And
Sure.
well, cork doesn't exist. I could ask 1,000 questions that'll prove that isn't even there. But I mean,
But in
I'm a
order-
science guy, and
Sure.
I'm not going to apologize for that.
No, I don't
but,
want you
but,
to.
But I'm a science guy, and you had mentioned that they've never been able to show or prove. Well, they actually kind of have, and I reference it when I was talking the passages of the planets and how they're able to estimate where a planet was going to be.
Right.
There are laws of science
Sure.
that have been tested and retested and tested and retested and tested thousands of times and always been shown to be true.
Mm-hmm.
This is just an expansion of those to cover essentially what we can see, and in some cases what we can't see because we get to see it years later because there might be a probe sent out or whatever. But I'm a science guy.
Sure.
And there's nothing about my belief that goes contrary to any of the science that I know.
Mm-hmm.
And
could I ask you a question then based on that? Because this is something that I'm not looking at this just from one side. I've looked at this from both sides. I've looked at, what do the Globers say versus what do the Flat Earthers say? And when I read them both, I kind of say, well, I have to look at this a little deeper, or I don't, or this makes sense to me, or it doesn't. And I'm not a scientist per se, but I have a scientific mind and I have a very analytical mind. And I'll go right through, and I may as well show my full crazy. I'll just take my cloak right off. What is gravity? Can you explain gravity to me from a scientific perspective?
Yes, it's a force exhibited by a body on another body.
Okay.
And the strength of gravity depends on the masses of those two bodies and their distances apart. And that's been studied and that's been looked at. I mean,
is that explained by any other means at all?
I'm unsure by any other means. I mean, once
what-
you get an explanation that fits the science, why would you look for another explanation
because
for
science,
another means?
Yeah, science, by what it is, it never rests. I mean, water freezes at 0 degrees or Celsius if you want to go that far, but it doesn't always because if you're
so
at elevation-
mine is that gravity is a force of attraction on one body on the other. I'm guessing that's not what you think.
Well, I'm trying to find out because Neil deGrasse Tyson says he doesn't know what gravity is, and he's a pretty smart dude and all this astrophysicist stuff.
Yeah, he's only one person on the planet.
But he's probably
He also believes the Earth is round.
he does,
Mhm.
but he doesn't understand gravity, and I don't understand gravity. I don't understand why it works if we're spinning as fast as we are.
Okay, we're going to pick this up at
Yeah,
another
this-
time
this
because
could
we could
go on and
spend.
on.
We could go ahead, Barry, pull one out.
Hugs.
No. Hey, listen, valid
No,
discussion on a topic. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah.
Of course, Fishbowl Fridays are sponsored by Boston Pizza, and we want to thank Boston Pizza and Bridgewater and the Boston Pizzas across Canada for assisting us to have this type of discussion every Friday night on Fishbowl
Had
Fridays.
me until the whole Satan thing, and then
Aye.
yeah, the
That's
same.
fine.
Wow.
I chose not to comment on this.
I just
satanic
started
part of it.
drinking. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm
The great
out.
deceiver.
Yeah.
He's the great deceiver.
Yeah, Megan's like, freeze frame.
I hope you didn't take a photo.
So how do you-
there
so-
I think she did.
as he said that.
So
because
Satan
my
is the great
face-
deceiver.
Sure.
How do you know Satan didn't put all these ideas in the flat
Ooh,
earth?
Oh,
Satan's
see.
a flat earther.
He has to be.
Oh yeah.
He's a science denier.
Uh-oh. Okay, that conversation is
we're-
over.
Actually-
Next week, we'll pick it up.
We'll
Satan's
talk.
the father of science.
Pick it up next
That
week.
is okay.
Atlantic
Oh.
bubble to Cuba.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Now, recently in
Yes or no?
recently in the news, a lady in Halifax decided to try to take a group from Atlantic Canada and go to a specific location in Cuba, in Keokoko, and she wanted the quarantine or isolation, 14 days of that isolation lifted when they returned. What she wanted to do was to go from Halifax direct to Cuba and then go to a resort that was exclusively for that flight. Okay, so there's 220 people on a flight. They go to a hotel. They stay at the hotel for the week. The staff are all checked for COVID multiple times before our Canadians arrived, and then we actually get checked before we come back. But she wants the 14-day isolation lifted. How do you feel about that?
Well, more importantly, do the people on these flights get checked before they
Yes.
get on the flight?
Yes, they do.
because that would be my bigger
Yeah.
concern than,
Yeah.
than being checked before they come back.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point because it's hard to pick it up sometimes.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, that's outside my area of expertise, but obviously doesn't mean I won't have an opinion on it.
Yeah, of course.
But if it's safe, fine. And you'd need someone much smarter than I that knows that particular science better to weigh everything and find out if it is safe. If it's safe, it can be determined to be safe. I don't have a problem with it.
So a couple things, Megan, so you can weigh in on this, is that the comments that I made was, number one, because I was isolated in Cuba for 8 months, the medical system is second to none in regards to the manpower hours they put into COVID. Second thing is I wanted immunity boosters throughout the week. So nurses actually came to each household in Cuba when I was in Holguin and provided immunity boosters, because if you're going to go away on vacation for a week, what are you going to do? Right? And your immune system depletes dramatically when you drink alcohol. So I wanted to be able to have at least a couple times a week that those immunity boosters would be applied, and that the international clinic would be open for all of the citizens that were there, and that the airport would only be exclusive to that group while they're there. So it would be essentially be closed while those people would be landing. It is a very difficult subject, and it's right down the middle. Like literally, it's down the middle. People who want to travel, want to do it. Those who don't think it's a good idea. And I just want to talk about it tonight. So how do you feel, Megan?
I would love to travel. I would love to go down south. But everything you just described sounds very elitist. It sounds very, we'll have our own airport, we'll all get checked, we'll stay in there, everyone coming to us will get checked so we're safe. And I don't think that that's realistic. I think that when you are dealing with people who are getting paid probably shit money to work in these resorts, they don't all stay on the resorts.
Yes, they would be staying on the resort the whole time.
But you can, how can they? I don't know. I just think that it's easy for us to say, we'll pay the money, we'll get our own flight, just our area of the airport, we'll go down, no one will see us, we'll go on our bus, all the people who will give us our food and we'll do all this and turn down our beds and we'll all be checked daily, but I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, there's too many pressure points.
Right?
There's too many
easy
points
to say.
that it can come apart.
Great. Yeah, that sounds great. I'll put the money in and go. But it takes one person.
I'll give you an example.
Right?
One of the things we actually discussed was security, because you always have that rogue individual that wants to go against the grain, that says, like, I'm not staying on the resort. I'm going here. I'm doing this, right? So the reality is you just need more security. They're actually doing it in Keokoko right now from Montreal and Toronto. The only problem is that Montreal and Toronto, they have probably the most cases, right?
Than we are.
So that's why we wanted, because if my real concern about it is that if we don't do something like this, there will be people that will book travel in those months unless the Canadian government says you're not allowed to travel.
I know, but they will either way. If people want to travel, they're going to travel. They're trying to come up with a way to make it safer. I get that. And I would love to say, yeah, book me in. Like, we'll go down. That would be great. But, I mean, we had a rise in cases, and all the cases were linked to travel.
Travel
right?
related, yeah.
So, I mean, I think, I don't know.
It's a tough one.
I don't know.
It is a tough one. I know it is. That's why I wanted to have a discussion on it. Glenn, how do you feel about
Glenn,
it?
What do you think?
I think there's absolutely zero consistency in the way we deal with COVID in any level of
100%
anything.
agree.
And I think it's ridiculous when you sit and think about the way that we've been put under restrictions in some areas and not in others, and that there's certain areas when you walk in a restaurant that you have to have masks on and certain areas you don't. And I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. And frankly, it's less believable than flat Earth. You know, that this could actually work. You know,
Well, I'll cheer you on that one.
So,
you need your drink. I'll cheer you on that.
I do that, but so in saying that, you know, I don't mind. I'm not even going to get into how I personally feel about all this stuff. Just the way the government is handling it doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree.
So why should we let? Number one, why do we give the government as much control over our lives as we do in the first place? We're adults, and we should be able to self-govern. And if part of that is you know,
you can start building highways now. Then
well,
it's going to be difficult.
government is required to build highways. It's required to police. We talked about this when I was here. There are certain things that the government should do, but it shouldn't tell me finitely how I can live my life. Like I was locked down in my apartment for 3 months. And I went. That was a good thing I didn't believe the earth was flat then, because I probably like.
You wouldn't have made it. You wouldn't have made it.
Right. I'm glad I didn't have a so it's just that the lack of consistency is it's laughable.
Well,
it is.
I think part of the lack of consistency is because
we haven't
in
been
our
here before.
lives we haven't had to go through this before.
We've never been here.
Well,
before.
it's not just us though. Like the restrictions of like putting a mask on to walk 10 feet through a building, whether it's the gym or the restaurant or wherever you are, and then taking it off to play hockey, to eat, to do all these other things. It's not just here. Like it's in Arizona.
Where school, it's the classrooms.
Right.
You know, it's all the same. It makes no sense.
Expecting children and you know to mind and wear these things the way they're supposed to and not trade them, like it's just ridiculous to me. So I mean, just throw this on the loop. Why do we let the government tell us? And I mean, yes, we need roads, and yes, we need hospitals. And
but I expect you don't mind a lot of things that the government does for us, right? So you're in other words, the things I don't want the government to control, I don't want them to control. But the things I want them to control, I want them to control. And if your thing is inconsistency, then that's inconsistency. I think it's a matter of people are trying the best they can to make people safe. And yes, on the face of it, it doesn't make sense to walk into a restaurant with a mask on, wash your hands, go to the table, and then you can take your mask off. Mm-hmm. But the reality is it's hard to eat in a restaurant without a mask on. So essentially what you get is a half measure. But a half measure is better than nothing, right? You need $100. Would you rather have 50 or none? Well, let's get $50 out of it.
The other thing too, Barry, is that the other part of COVID is the entrepreneurial side or the business sector that are struggling enormously. So I think the government's trying to balance somewhat to create as safe an environment as they can.
And I can't believe I'm going to say this. Is it on? Are we recording?
Yeah.
I'm with Glenn on this one.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Oh, really?
You know?
No. The thing is, though,
he's not a nut job. He's not.
No. It's just fun to tease him.
But I'm with Glenn on parts of it as well.
The government has been very inconsistent. For example, when the government would go on and make the announcements in August, when everyone was waiting, what's happening with school, teachers were waiting too. We were finding out the same time parents were, and parents were finding out before us, and we're expected to know what's happening. But the government has not relayed information appropriately.
Now you're talking provincial government, right?
I'm talking any government, even
all right.
On every level. I agree with Glenn a little that there are things that yes, the government needs to control. I can't believe I said it twice.
Just
oh
a
my
little.
gosh, we turned this into a drinking game. Every time I say I agree with Glenn, someone has to.
You had to qualify it just a little. She said.
What? What?
Just a little bit. But I do think that,
Megan, I love you.
You know, I feel like a little bit of that conspiracy person, though. Like, I feel like maybe you're rubbing a little off on me over here.
Let's talk about parent.
No,
okay.
There's holes in the protections that we have, and there's contradictions.
Okay.
Yes.
But there almost has to be. And Dennis made a very good point. It's such a balancing act that if you just said, okay, we're going to make everyone safe, shut everything down, have all these types of things. We're going to hire 2,000 more officers to walk around and make sure people are wearing masks. Yeah, but there's no real true benefit to society in going that way.
No, but a benefit for the government would be to have people from different areas come together and ask them, does this make sense? Does it make sense for us to say no? Restaurants, yes, until we sit down. Does it make sense to have kids have masks in the classroom but nowhere else, especially the minute they leave the school? They're all outside hugging and throwing their masks off. Does it make sense? They make decisions without often, I'm not going to make a blanket statement of all the time, but they often make decisions without maybe consulting people who know better than them, because just because they're in power doesn't mean they know
We
everything.
talk about that, Glenn, about actually having qualifications in a specific area, right? Like a lot of people that are elected officials, like Barry, you received your employment because of your education. and your experience. And then you became more and more experienced. And through your experience, you moved through the chain of employment to a more responsible position each and every time. That doesn't happen in politics all the time. You may be the most popular
run for
person
mayor against David Mitchell, and I
Absolutely.
could have won 200,000 followers on TikTok. I could have been the next mayor of Bridgewater.
and then all of a sudden we're
and
in.
you all would have been screwed.
Yeah,
Let me
because
just
you have
say
no
that.
experience.
Right.
You have no experience.
There's lots I don't know, and I would have been making
Yeah.
decisions like.
Michael Graves was
But-
here. Michael Graves was here, and Michael Graves did say his first 4 years in government was just learning.
Yeah.
So imagine if you have a group of politicians in government that have never experienced this situation before. They're learning as they go.
Yes.
So it's a difficult situation.
No, I think in part,
but I do
can't
think we need
fault them fully.
exactly. I was just going to say that
However,
because it's hard to judge somebody.
At this point, I can start to fault them because they're
Yeah,
still making.
yeah. There's 8 months of experience
Right.
and knowledge.
You know, maybe the first 2-3 months you don't fault them
Yeah.
because you're right. We haven't had a pandemic. But at this point,
What's the game
I
plan?
would expect people at a higher level to sit down and say, okay, we need to sit down and see what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Let's talk with educators who are in the classroom or administrators or people who actually know something about education. Let's bring in some healthcare providers. Let's
Fair.
talk to mental health. What do we actually need to do? Because maybe the things we think sitting behind our little desks,
Would help.
oh, wait, we're not sitting behind desks because we as however many can't because of COVID, but yet we'll put 400 kids into a school. I digress.
Yeah.
You get my point.
I do.
No, and I agree with you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
A little bit.
A
isn't it?
little bit.
Does that mean I agree with Glenn too?
Oh my God!
Hey,
Everybody drink!
we're coming together here.
3 down,
We're
7 million to go.
We're coming together. All right, so that's long enough on that topic this week.
right.
We may pick up again on that topic on the next Fishbowl Fridays. Glenn, you pull this one out.
And I'll have to say, and perhaps Megan was going through the same thought process in her head, is that I'm employed by the provincial government.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm
You
not
both
gonna,
are.
Fair
You both
You
are.
know what? I mean,
Yeah.
I have to be very careful what I say when it comes to
We love the
provincial
government.
politics.
We
Glenn.
love the government.
You're just not very.
But you know what?
This subject's
Oh,
big.
What is this? Ooh.
Oh, this is big. This happened. This
Yeah.
is happening right now.
Trump
Or
versus
white cheddar chips.
Trump versus Biden.
Trump versus Biden. So when we're recording this right now, actually, it looks like Joe Biden is going to be the next president of the United States. Now
He's
we are
not
not.
going to concede. He already
I know he
said.
won't. We're not Americans.
not
We're not
conceding.
Americans, but we are neighbors to that country, and the
do you
influence of
mean?
the United States of America goes globally.
do you
So
mean?
I don't want to spend a half an hour on this, but just right now, what do you think if Donald Trump loses the election, which it looks like he's probably going to? What do you think he's going to react like?
Well, he's already shown what he's going to react like.
Yeah.
Okay,
He went-
is that current?
Yeah, that's current.
He went last night.
250.
He went last night on television, essentially to try to burn America down
Yes.
and to tell everyone that he's being cheated out of a lawful presidency, just because
He's narcissistic.
he doesn't
Just
like
because
losing.
he says so.
and everything's about him, and he's enabled, and he's had all this support through Fox and everything.
White
But-
privilege.
But here's what's interesting. Last night, Hannity on his show, was,
Sean Hannity
yeah,
from
was
Fox.
was of course critical of Biden, and he was saying, like everyone else, that they're stealing the election. Maybe not in so many words, but he put a post up, and I saw the photo. I'm not too sure whether it was a video or a still photo that was behind him. They had a picture of Biden's house. Joe Biden's house, prominently said Joe Biden's house and the community it was in.
Hoping
Just so
that
all these
Trump
nut jobs
Exactly.
that Trump
That's crazy.
put on edge earlier in the night would know how to find Biden's house. Thank you.
So here's the thing. I watched today. I try to follow as much as I can and be as educated as I can in certain things. And they're saying right now that Fox News, all of their people there will not concede. They will not concede, even if other news outlets say that they're all going to project Joe Biden as the next president. Fox News will not follow the same.
I don't agree with that actually, Dennis. And I'm no fan
They're
of Fox.
saying that.
But yeah, but there's two things. It's not Fox News. There's Fox News, where they have actual journalists
Right.
and people that do the news.
Exactly.
Then there's Fox opinion,
the power.
which is
Commentators.
entertainment.
Yes.
And they've even gone to court and said, when they're called to court for lying and inciting violence, they've defended themselves by saying, well, people should know that's not true. We're just touting the party line. That was their defense in court. So there are some good journalists at Fox News, and they do good work. And one gentleman actually left because it got to the point where he was a voice of reason in a tree.
It looks right now that Nevada is going to go to Biden, and the big one is Pennsylvania.
Well, Pennsylvania's going to Biden by a bunch.
And here's the thing. More people have voted in this election than ever in the history of the country.
But didn't they say 4 million more people have voted for Trump than
for
before?
Biden.
No, for Biden. Yeah.
Okay.
No, the popular
I'm only going by
Popular
TikTok
vote.
news.
No, the popular vote.
No, but they're saying in
right here,
terms of
right
the
here.
amount of votes that
Pop-
Trump
popular-
got
popular
compared
vote.
to 4 years ago has increased.
Oh, no, Trump is increased.
Oh, yeah. He's
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Biden
Yeah.
has the most votes ever.
in the history of
And
the
Trump
country.
has the second most votes ever.
Right now, it's Biden is 74, a little over 74 million, and Trump is a little over 70 million. So it's 4 million.
So
difference.
I'm probably the only one who saw it. Maybe you might have seen it. So on TikTok, this guy he's a comedian, and so
Right.
someone just put this clip up of his comedic act, and it's explaining voting for Biden over Trump, and I loved it because I think Biden's creepy. I think he's gross. I think he should be held accountable for a lot of things he's probably done. However, it's one of those, the lesser of two evils. You've got to pick one of them. But the guy in this video compared it to Biden being like a used car that's smoking, and you're driving down the highway and the check engine light comes on, and you kind of look at the engine and you're like, no, I don't see anything. I don't see anything. I'm just going to keep driving. No, I don't see that smoke in that engine. I'm just going to keep trying to get home. And his whole thing was a lot of people don't necessarily want Biden as president, but they know that they don't have a choice because
It was a repudiation of Trump. This
Right?
vote,
Yeah.
because they didn't lose House seats. They actually gained some.
Right.
Right? So it wasn't a repudiation of Republicans.
Yeah.
It was a repudiation of Trump and Trump Republicans. And there's a distinction there.
Now, I will watch this because, Barry, I think you'll appreciate this. If you watched in 2016 the nomination debate, right, when Trump went against all the other guys, Ted Cruz and many of the others,
called them all names.
It was a shit show. It really was. If you look at the Democratic one this year in 2020 or 2019, it was very well done. There was a conversation. It's certainly debated in a lot of topics. You have Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren that are far left, but they were respectful to each other. That team of people, and I always say, you don't vote for the president. You vote for the party. That's how these parties have enormous power, enormous influence with economic contributions from multiple industries that say, we want these people in power. In a lot of cases, they support both sides. Big Pharma, they support both sides because they want to have the influence on either side that gets in there.
Yeah, they usually tilt it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be like
some-
70%
Right.
one way and 30% the other.
Trump or Biden?
This is such a
And you're an
tinderbox.
American.
I am an American
Yes.
citizen. I was
Yeah.
born near Boston, and my family brought me here. My dad's Canadian. I voted in the last 6 elections. I did not vote for Donald Trump in 2016. I'm a registered libertarian in the U.S., as you probably could tell from my...
So you voted Johnson in 16?
I did. I was one of the 14 people that did that. Joe Jorgensen had a much better showing. She actually got 1% of the vote this year. That means,
Hey, listen,
Yeah.
politics in the States would be so much better if it wasn't a two-party system.
totally.
I agree.
I mean,
with you 100%.
I think it would be better for everyone.
I vote to platforms, and I'm concerned about Biden's platform. I'm concerned about his person, too. I'm concerned about the whole family.
I think everybody is.
But I am not socialist. I am as far from socialist politically leaning as I can be. Biden is far more socialist leaning than Trump is.
And Trump is far more fastest leading.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering in World War II whether we went to Germany to fight fascists or socialists. I'm confused.
Do you know who founded NASA, by the way? Did you ever hear of Operation Paperclip, speaking of fascist and Nazi Germany? We can come back to that another time.
Yeah, that might be like 3 Fridays from now or something.
Yeah.
That's cool. We'll come back to that.
I won't be here. At that one.
Here's my thing, and this is part of where I am. Like
Okay.
just in my entire process of where I am, I don't believe the media. I don't believe anything they say. I don't know Donald Trump. I don't know anybody that knows. Well, I do. I know one person that went to a party at Donald Trump's house, and they said he was an all right guy. I don't know that to be fact. It's secondhand knowledge. Everything I hear in the media is at least secondhand, if not more knowledge. Is there a mountain of evidence against him being this terrible person? There is. I admit that.
And it's not secondhand knowledge. There's video. There's audio.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
On the
not
bus.
talking.
On the
There's
bus.
interviews.
Totally, 100%.
Yeah.
That's not. But you said it's all secondhand.
Well,
it's not.
It is, because the way the media presents things and puts spin on things, and things are so taken out of context that if you're going to trust everything that you read about him or see about him on the news, you have to trust that everyone that presented it in the exact context that it actually happened in. And I don't believe that. I believe that everybody
God, I
has.
agree with Glenn.
I believe that everybody has a mandate, and they're trying to fulfill a mandate by telling a story within a narrative.
Megan, you're going to the dark
and
side.
I'm not saying that Donald Trump is a good person. I don't know that to be fact. But I do know that nobody has been so vilified in the history of Hitler was not as vilified as Donald Trump is. He was not.
Please do not. I would never
Now,
want to
I
compare
do
someone to
believe
Hitler.
Trump is a moron. Don't get me wrong.
And
Like, I agree with Glenn about
I-
the media side, that I think media is very one-sided, and they let us hear and see what they want us to, and that there are many things left out. However, I do believe that Trump should never be allowed to open his mouth in public and speak for anyone.
Well,
He
let's talk.
shouldn't be allowed to open anything. A bottle of water,
Yeah.
nothing. I mean,
Let's talk about. Hey guys, I'm the host of the show.
Can I
You
just
can.
finish
Okay,
real
go
quick?
ahead.
I'm really glad. Like, it's looking like the Senate and the House. There's going to be some balance of power.
Michael, look
among
that
those
up.
3 levels. And if it wasn't, I think
Seats
if
in the
this
Senate
was,
for
if
2020.
this was a straight Democratic ticket right now, I think the United States would be in a lot of trouble. I just really do. I think that having some kind of balance and power is necessary.
yeah,
against that.
I hate to warn you of this though, but that's not necessarily true
I know.
because it's Georgia, both those Senate seats, especially if in the final tally, Biden is the winner in Georgia. That'll build I was going to say.
As long as
I
he
was going to
doesn't
say a bad word, but a ton of momentum.
Right there,
A ton
Barry.
of momentum, and they're going to have the runoffs in January for those 2 Senate seats.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important who
But he's
wins
not-
Georgia. Even though Biden doesn't need Georgia,
But they're not going to have the
win.
House. The House is already determined it's going to stay Republican. They have to have some check and balance.
stay
in that.
Republican. The House is Democrat now.
Is the House
Yes.
so?
Yeah.
Okay, the Senate is the one that's going to.
All right,
Okay.
we're
The
done.
You're
We're,
talking.
I
You're talking.
think we're in trouble.
No, but I just had one comment on
Go ahead,
Biden-
Barry.
on
This is the
Biden.
last one. This is the last thing.
It's my disappointment in Biden wasn't so much Biden, the person, and let's make no mistake of this. I'm about as liberal-minded a
Yes, you
person
are.
as you will find,
You are.
but I have voted liberal, conservative, and NDP in my lifetime in Nova Scotia. So I don't limit myself to parties per se. And you know what? It's taking that little side thing. I've kind of lost my thought process where I was headed with my comment. But my disappointment with Biden was that it was just another example of it's his turn. That's when they put Hillary out there. It was her turn, and
It's
all the Democrats agreed it's
100%
Hillary's
agree
turn.
with you.
So it became Hillary, and she ran a terrible campaign. I mean, she was more qualified than Donald Trump, but qualified doesn't mean anything if you don't run a campaign that can't win the seat for you.
But here's the thing: Joe Biden is, excuse me, a representative of his party. The party should have the opportunity to choose who their representative is going to be. So when it comes down to it, I understand where you're coming from, but the Democratic Party gets to choose who they're going to have to represent for the election.
Well, they do, but it depends on what you mean by
Excuse
the
me.
Democratic Party. Is it the leaders of the Democratic Party? But the idea is that registered Democrats get to choose their representative, and that's
But Joe Biden got the most votes. I mean, Bernie had a good lead in the beginning. He won the first 3 states, but ended up losing. Anyway, that's
All right, we're
enough of the
moving
United
on.
States.
Listen, because
I agree.
I am not into politics.
What was that, Michael? What did you say?
Please just be quiet and listen, because let me tell you something. You don't know what the hell you talking about.
Okay. Attaboy,
That would
Stephen.
be
Thank
me.
you, Steve.
If I was speaking about politics, that would be on. All right,
I've been thinking about that about half the stuff you've said so far.
Barry's limited.
I
to
think
one
you're cutting
drink.
yourself short.
Limited to one drink per episode.
No, Barry's more qualified than that.
Two drinks.
on.
What's this, Meg?
No,
Carry on.
that was just a dig.
It's all right. I can take it. Jerk.
What's the deal?
I can't. That hurts.
Hey, a big shout out to Boston Pizza for allowing us to do these Fishbowl Fridays.
Thank you,
and
Boston Pizza.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're in an area where there's a Boston Pizza, drop by on Friday nights and enjoy Fishbowl Fridays. We have.
And Shirley, your staff is awesome.
I like the wings.
I like the fish bowls.
What a surprise, Megan.
Glenn finally
white-
said something
What a
White wine
uncontroversial.
sangria in a fish bowl.
yeah.
Nothing beats it.
Next topic.
Pizza.
Oh, here we go. This is a perfect one for Boston Pizza.
Pineapple or no?
Oh, wow.
To me,
Yeah.
every time.
Every time.
Every time what? Every
I
time
say
yes
we
or every
keep
time
this-
no?
Pineapple,
This
yes.
keeps a yes or no. You can't
But-
explain it.
Are you
Yes
talking
or no.
Hawaiian, right?
I like Hawaiian, but I
Yeah.
like a little spice with it. I either like some
Oh,
jalapenos or
okay,
some red
nice.
pepper flakes on it to even
Now,
out the
there's
sweet.
one over at Boston Pizza right now, too. It's almost like a chicken Alfredo style with pineapple, too, which is really good.
But that's the cool thing. Boston Pizza's got a dozen or so different types of pizzas for all different tastes. And that's the thing about pizza. There shouldn't be a yes or no pineapple. What a silly question. Do you like pineapple on pizza? Yeah, I do. Then put it on my pizza. I mean,
But there are people that are adamant, like,
Yeah.
Barry, we needed an easy
Oh.
question after these last two.
You know what?
That's all this
I'm
is.
just gonna.
why do you have to make everything so difficult?
You know what
Yes
was?
or no?
You know what was?
Pizza,
You know what was easy?
pineapple, Yes?
You
No?
know, you know what was easy? Growing up in Cape Breton, there
Which
were
part of Cape Breton?
Sydney, the
Well,
big,
that's where my dad's
the big
Yeah.
city. Yeah. Growing up in Cape Breton, when you ordered a pizza, here were your options. Are you ready?
Dough or no dough?
Small, medium, and large. Small, medium, and large.
Pepperoni, cheese, or works.
Yeah.
And the other options were pepperoni or the works. Or actually, it wasn't called the works. It was called combination.
Combination.
And a combination pizza had green pepper and that. I come up to Halifax my first year of university. I'm staying in a room at a house.
Donair
I have
pizza.
no friends. I call up a pizza place because I have no food. I've just gotten into this house. There's no food. I got nothing. So I call a pizza place and I ordered a medium combination. This is Halifax.
In Halifax.
And the guy,
chick and a dude
the guy
come
said,
in
what
pizza
the heck
and a
is
bag.
a medium
Did he say-
combination?
Medium combination.
Do you
It's a
want,
medium combination.
did he say, do you want pineapple on that? No?
No, he didn't know what medium was, and he didn't know what combination was, because everything is 9, 12, 15, 18, right? And it's all toppings. So I'm a naive Cape Breton kid. I want a medium combination.
Now, guys, I'm just going to tell
Did you get a pizza
All
that
right.
night?
I eventually
Okay,
did,
good.
but I had to
Yes
have a
or no?
long discussion. to
No
figure it out.
Well, here's the
explanation.
deal.
This is a yes or no.
I was in Holguin. I ordered
no, that's
pizza.
not yes or no.
Thank-
Pineapple on pizza,
No.
yes or no, Dennis?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Boston Pizza, for having a pizza that has pineapple on it that I absolutely enjoy. I can tell you. The first thing I
feel like
ordered.
This was an actual commercial that was written down. That
First
was
thing I
slowly
ordered
written.
when I hit the ground was pizza.
40 years ago, the
Thank you,
debate
Boston
was
Pizza, for all your
anchovies
pizza.
on pizza.
Yeah.
Yes or no? Anchovies on pizza. Yes
Thank
or
you,
no?
Boston Pizza. And if you want to put pizza, hey, dial the number and order pizza tonight on Boston Pizza and Fishbowl
All right,
Fridays.
we need another light one because that election topic stuff is too deep
Yeah.
for my
Not just the
little
election.
brain.
It was the last three topics.
I don't think it is.
Do you want your pizza flat or round? Next
It's
topic.
both. I like it both.
I was like, no one knows how to answer
And
that.
actually, the earth isn't round.
This is a good one. There's going to be some good conversation around this, I think.
Yeah.
Sunday shopping, yes or no?
Wow.
Sunday
you
shopping.
are very religious, so I bet your answer is no.
No.
No?
It's
Oh,
not
that's not
typically-
fair.
and frankly,
There are people who
Whoa.
are very. Why isn't it
Before-
fair?
It's
before I
not
say-
fair to tell him before he
Yeah.
answers what he's going to answer.
I just
I'm
want to say,
guessing.
You know why? You know why, Barry? Because she wants to agree with Glenn on this one again.
Megan, I just
agreed
want
with
to.
him again 3 times.
I am not
is my-
religious. I just want to go on record. I
Yeah.
am not a religious person.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't believe in religion. I actually think religion is a pretty evil construct.
That's not true. You just finished saying that you have
Mm-hmm.
quotes from the Bible and that you believe God put us
Right.
He
here. and
believes
that
in
we're
God.
all-
I believe in God.
You
I
believe
believe
in
in a
God.
relationship
That is a
with God.
religion.
No.
Christianity.
Religion.
No,
is-
it's not.
religion
Okay,
is
fair
okay,
enough. All
guys,
Believe,
hold it.
but-
I'm the host.
True.
Hey,
Fair
hip,
enough.
hip,
All
hip.
right. I'm
I'm the
not going to
host.
say I believe. I
It's,
agree with
it's Sunday
Glenn.
shopping,
Sunday shopping,
not God.
yes or no?
All right, not God.
All right.
So, do you want me to start or do you want me to go?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go
You-
ahead,
you,
Glenn.
got the
I
ballot.
think that, in this day and age, one of the things that we've moved away from is family time. And I think that Sunday shopping is just another
Amen.
day we don't get to spend time with our families.
Amen.
And when I was a kid, nothing was open on Sundays except for maybe 2 or 3 restaurants, maybe the Chinese restaurants in town you could go to.
One gas station.
There was a gas station.
Yeah.
One pharmacy was open. There was always a pharmacy open 24 hours. I mean, not 24 hours in Bridgewater, but someone was always open.
Right.
So you don't consider it government interference to tell people they can't shop on Sunday? You have to get food, and there's nothing open because it's Sunday,
but people
because
plan.
someone had a religion that Sunday was their special day,
Yeah.
so that means that everyone has to shut down on Sunday.
No,
but that's not interference.
That's got nothing to do with this. It's my personal preference of whether or not we should go shopping on Sunday.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
My family, we could go out in our garden and pick the food that we
I'm
grew.
sorry, I misunderstood the question. I thought the
Exactly.
question was
Exactly.
whether there essentially should it be legislated
It's
at
really
Sunday
not
shopping.
even. It's really not even a question. It's just Sunday shopping. Yes or no?
And here's the thing.
Yes or no? Do you think there should be Sunday shopping?
Well,
I
here's
think that's
the big
question.
a big shout out to Mike Pope, who lives in Kingston, Ontario. He's
Yeah.
a good friend of ours.
Yep.
Mike actually started his own garden because the reality is that I think we become so dependent on having access to things all the time. And if you can't be organized enough, we talked about this with David Walker on your dad, actually, Megan, about
that David Walker.
why
right.
can't we have one day where we all can just focus on family? We're so wound up all week long.
But can we choose the day?
If you want Wednesday, Barry, I mean, it's one day at a 7. I don't care what day it is.
No, but the thing
But
is that
come
you're
on, man.
legislating a day
Yeah.
to take away options from people.
But how many options do you need? I mean, how many days do you need to buy You say groceries. If you don't have any groceries in the house, if you don't have the intelligence to go to a grocery store on a Wednesday night, knowing that Sunday it's going to be closed, you're in trouble.
Well, the debate isn't about need; it's about want.
Yes, that's the problem in
options.
society. There's too many people and that's the thing. We need to focus more on our needs than we
I'm
do
for
on our
yes.
wants.
Shopping whenever the hell I want to shop should be available if I want to. It is my
that's
choice as a human. If I want to shop, I should be allowed to shop. If I own a business, I as a human should be able to say, I do not want my business open on Sunday or Saturday or Wednesday. So I should personally be able to say, I don't want to open on Sunday, which lots of places do. There are places that don't open on Sunday.
Gauss Home Hardware is one of the
Right.
stores that don't want to open on
I
Sunday.
think for me personally, I work, just because I'm a teacher, I'm not out the door at 3:00. I get home by 5. I coach. We have kids in music,
absolutely.
soccer, gymnastics, hockey. So for me, Saturday and Sunday are the days that I can go and get things done. Yes, I understand, you need family time, but for a lot of people, a Monday to Friday is very hectic, not because they're out shopping or getting groceries or doing whatever, but because they have families that are all busy doing other things during the week. And for them, a Saturday and a Sunday are the days that they have to do those things. But I also believe that I think whoever owns the business should have the right to not open on any day they want. Hairdressers don't open on Mondays.
That's true.
Right? That's their choice. And I think that, I don't think the government should be able to say, like we said, religious reasons, we shouldn't be able to close on Sunday.
ahead, Glenn.
But
I think that if you look at this from a business perspective, and I agree, like if businesses want to open on whatever day, they should be able to, and they should be able to not to. But I think from a business perspective, if we only had shopping on 6 days, we wouldn't lose $1 spent.
I
in
agree.
the economy. Yep. And if we closed the businesses for one day, we would take down the cost of operations.
Cost of operation, I agree.
by 1/7, which is significant in budgets.
The bottom line for all those
but
entrepreneurs.
they can choose, though.
Sure, they could.
So
Totally,
By
But
making
Barry, you
it, by
can't
making it-
choose. You can't choose because if you have competitors out there that are open on Sundays and you don't, you lose that revenue. So there's not a choice. You're chasing. You're chasing the almighty dollar.
There's not 2 sides to a story. There's 12 sides to a story, and I agree pretty much with every word Megan said. And I'll add, I'll add is that if your family needs the government to tell people they can't open businesses on Sunday to distract you from being a family, then you're screwed anyway. I mean, they left Sunday for us. We'll do our family stuff on Sunday. Hi, Junior. Oh, and it's Tuesday.
if I want to do something with my family, I can do it whether something's open or not. All right, next.
Yeah, next.
It's a subject that'll never go away, but I'm glad we talked about it because there's a lot of discussion I'm sure there will be in society.
3 left.
Yeah, and there's 3 left.
How about the people that are against Saturday shopping? Do they get a chance to say their piece?
Oh, Barry, you're
They
breaking up.
did close Saturdays to 5 now, isn't it? Because they're open on Sunday. Don't things close
Well,
at
COVID
5
made
o'clock?
everything shut down
COVID,
for
yeah.
7 days a week, so I was happy to get in the stores, period.
True.
Until they made me
All
put
right,
a mask
next
on to go into
question.
the stores.
Barry,
What
go
the
ahead.
Down to 3.
Is it me? Look at this. Well, it's. I'm glad there's an S on the
Oh,
end of
here's
that
a good
word.
one. Here's a good one.
But I'm glad there's an S on the end of this word. Top rock bands
Yeah.
of all time.
Yeah.
So
You wanted to do that.
not the top rock band, but top rock
I don't think there's just one.
bands. There isn't just one,
You're right.
and
We talked about this.
and I've had this discussion before with Dennis when we've talked music. Is that, are you talking about the top rock band or the most important rock band? Because there's a distinction there, and for me, the two bands that fall into that category, although there's so many others, but the two bands that really fall into the fight that defines both of those are the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. They both came around the same time from about the same place. The importance of the Beatles can't be denied. They pretty much changed music and the way it was done. But the Rolling Stones, they were a better rock band, and their staying power was incredible, and they're still a great
They're
rock
still
band.
performing.
They're still a great rock band.
They are. I
And-
can't believe it, but they are. I mean, it's just amazing how old they are.
But for me, if I just said, for me, the best band, the rock bands, for my opinion, I've got the Beatles, I got the Rolling Stones, I've got Zeppelin, I've got.
You don't have 5, Barry. Come
I've
on.
got Pink Floyd.
Yeah, but now you got 4. Like, okay, so if I ask you, give me 2, what are the ones? Your favorite that you think are some of the greatest bands of all time?
Well,
what are your top 2?
I think the most important rock band of all time is the Beatles.
Okay.
by-
But they're not your favorite, are they?
By a good margin.
But they're not your favorite.
They're not my favorite, and the Rolling Stones aren't my favorite
Well,
either.
then, okay, so because you love Pink Floyd, right?
I love Pink Floyd.
You
I
love
love
Pink
Led
Floyd.
Zeppelin. I love Van Morrison.
I don't
love
think-
Dave Matthews. I mean, there's so many
So-
different types of music I love, but we're talking the best, and I think that requires
Well-
getting away from what you just love and what you think is the best. But
I
I
think.
agree with you.
which part?
What you just said, I think there's 2 distinctions because I don't listen to the Beatles. I don't listen to the Rolling Stones.
But you appreciate the
I
importance.
don't, but I understand, right? I don't listen to AC/DC, but I understand their importance. Pearl Jam, I didn't mind Pearl
1990, 91,
Yeah,
92
I
was
can
big.
Smashing Pumpkins,
Yeah.
bands like that. I wasn't a huge fan of, but I appreciated
Right.
and understood their influence. If I said who my bands were, it would be bands that I loved, that I listened to.
So
that
who
if
are they?
I said them, you would all laugh right
Well,
now.
who are they?
Because they're not like
It doesn't
Come on,
matter.
don't
Who
be
are
scared.
they?
Don't be
Bon
scared to
Jovi.
stick your neck out.
Poison, right? I liked hair metal bands.
Okay, here's
yeah,
the thing.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Here's the thing.
But I'm saying it's different than the question because I wouldn't classify them as
Well,
the
Bon
top.
Jovi's totally a rock
No, but
band.
they're your
Yes.
your
So
favorite is
that's what
different
I mean.
from.
So when you were saying it's different from, I can appreciate bands that paved the way for.
okay, so
these
you're
metal
talking.
Yeah,
bands
the
that I like.
historical
There's a
look at the
difference,
band
right?
rather
like,
than
I
your
would
personal
sit down
preference.
and listen to the Smashing Pumpkins or
Right.
the Beatles or to the Stones
So
or Pink Floyd.
let's talk. Let's talk
But-
Poison, right? Poison.
God, Brett-
Poison.
who doesn't love some Brett
but Poison
Michaels?
comes out of
Come on.
California. They come out of California, and they started an era where really
Come on.
was a completely different era. Now Barry's not a big fan of that era. He's not. I mean, if I said like Def Leppard to Barry,
Oh, pour some sugar on me. Come on,
But-
Barry.
I like Def Leppard. I think
know
they're
you
awesome.
do. I know you do. But there's
and
parts
I think
of
it was
rock
incredible
music.
what they did after their drummer's accident. In the sense
Yeah.
they said, we don't care that you've got one arm. You're our drummer, and we're going to work it out so that you're still our
Off
drummer.
topic for a second, because just thinking, pour some sugar on me. You would get this. How long have you been in Bridgewater?
I was here when you were a kid.
I like that you say a kid. We're probably closer to the. How old are you?
You guys are 10 years apart.
Oh shit! Sorry.
Closer to your dad's age. No,
No,
50.
no,
Dennis and I are the
no.
same.
David's older than us
Dennis and I are
by.
the same.
So
age.
don't you remember the teen club?
Oh yeah.
I do.
Oh my God!
88. Yeah.
The
Saturday
Underground.
afternoon.
I was the DJ, Megan.
From 12 to 4 p.m.
I was the DJ.
We would go in, buy us some strawberry daiquiri virgin style, and dance to pour some sugar on me
I was the
until 4
DJ.
p.m. when your parents picked you up outside the Y.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Nothing. That's what they need now. They
You
need
know
to bring
what?
back
I
a
know.
teen club for
I
some
know.
of these kids. Who
I'm
have
not going to
nothing
DJ that
do.
either.
You know,
Come on.
pour
No
some
way.
sugar on me.
That was
is
a classic.
I'll give you a story. How that song resonates with me is that I was never a huge fan of them, but I enjoyed the song. But I got to see a music summer camp do their final performance with all the different things, and a girl got up and her talent was singing, and she had a decent voice. and she was trying to sing Pour Some Sugar on Me, and
Tough one.
she was struggling big time. And her instructor went up and joined her on stage, and they sang it together. And it was awesome because
Kind of creepy.
when he started singing, she started getting some confidence, and she started singing to try to match him. And it was really cool. It was one of the best versions of the song I'd ever heard, even though the first 30 seconds of it was someone really beating it off a concrete wall. But it became a lot of fun to watch. And whenever you mention that song, I see
remember
that
that.
performance
Yeah.
because it showed how much a teacher and an instructor loves their students
Yeah.
and what they'll do and how intuitively he knew, I got to get up there now, because if I wait another 10 or 15 seconds, she's just going to melt and it'll be all over.
Glenn.
It's probably
Or,
nice.
yeah. What
Well,
about you?
my musical tastes are a little different, and rock bands are rock bands, but my top bands are Depeche Mode, New Order.
Hey, that's
you know,
that's Europe, man. That's Europe.
That's where I come from. I mean,
and
Yeah.
New Order was tremendously
they're-
Yeah,
influential.
absolutely.
they were, and they still play their music. Like Blue Monday by New Order's played every time you go out. It's going to be played in any kind of club. now.
Yeah.
I haven't gone out in a club in a long time, so maybe I'm not right about that anymore. But I also enjoy jazz. Harry Connick Jr. to me has just been iconic.
Okay, so
And I
Glenn, so
enjoy
you're
him.
aware of this, so you follow the pattern of this.
Yeah.
We're not talking
I
the
know,
best
but
jazz
I-
bands.
I
or-
can't-
We're
I can't
talking
speak
rock
to-
bands.
So rock bands, Chuck Berry is not really a band.
No, he's a solo artist.
solo artist, but he's the one that stands out to me. That was kind of the father of
for
a lot
rock
of this
and roll.
stuff.
Yeah, for rock and roll.
And of course the Beatles and the Rolling Stones are all influential. I just don't like them. And Barry's are going to like me even less after this.
No,
I can listen
that's
to them.
hey.
Like I can listen to them, and there are certain songs that I turn them up when I'm in the car, and I like them, but it's not my go-to. So for me to comment on this is like I don't
You know
feel.
what would be a good question off of that one is, what band do you really not like that everyone else thinks is amazing, but you're like, you know what?
I've got a
just
ton of
don't
those.
like-
Yeah.
But you can only pick one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've got a ton of those. And it's not that I don't like them. It's that I can appreciate their music. I can even like their music, but I don't get the hype. Honestly, Springsteen for me was like that.
Yeah.
It's like,
agree.
you know
Yeah,
what?
pick one.
Great songwriter.
Yeah.
And
But you just
fantastic
didn't-
guitar
you
player.
just didn't.
But his
Style.
profile was so
Yeah.
much higher than how I felt he was compared to other musicians,
Dennis,
although I
what
liked the
about
guy.
For me,
only pick
I
one.
remember 1981. I was staying at Jamie and Robbie and Mike Campbell's house, and I remember the first time I heard "Start Me Up." It was just an anthem, and what it was one of the most popular songs from a band.
And you probably heard it on a boombox.
No, it was on a stereo. It was on a stereo. Mike Campbell's bedroom. I remember the album cover, which back in the day when you talk about albums, they just had so much character and substance. And then for me, when John Marshall, who was actually a relative of mine, a huge Rolling Stones fan, he understood the history of the Stones. I really didn't understand the Stones that much at that time. I knew their popularity. I knew their really good songs. But when you dig into the Stones of, Muddy Waters and all those, what's the recording studio down in the southern states? What's it called? Shores.
Yeah. I don't know which one you're specifically
Michael.
talking about.
Anyway, it's a recording studio that's infamous in rock and roll history, and I'm so mad at myself.
We're talking Memphis?
Yeah, Memphis, yeah. Something Shores. Anyway, and what blew me away was that the Rolling Stones had so many influences in their music. The blues that you talked about, rock and roll, of course they're from Europe, right? So they have so many influences in their music, and you can actually hear it in so many different songs. I'm not a huge Rolling Stones fan. No, none of those. No. But the Rolling Stones, their longevity and their library of songs have just been unbelievable. And I will say the Beatles, I mean, historically, because they're before all of us, really, but John Lennon and Paul McCartney are staples in the musical world that I don't think will ever be matched again.
And who was the first Beatle to have a #1 solo hit?
Just think here, number one.
Got your mind set on me?
No.
Ringo Starr.
Yeah, Ringo.
Photograph.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he was the other Beatle, and he had the first solo number one.
But Harrison was,
it was
a
an
good solo artist too, right?
It was an incredibly talented group of individuals, and they added Ringo Starr later on because they tried a few drummers that just didn't work for the band, and they went with Ringo, and the comment for him wasn't that he was a great drummer or spectacular, the best backbeat in the business. So they just needed someone who could actually lay the beat down so that these three incredibly talented guys.
So for
could amaze
Canada,
us.
I'm not a fan of this band at all. But arguably the best rock band, excuse me, of all time in Canada is Rush. They're so incredibly
I guess
talented.
arguably is a good word to use.
Yeah, that's the word.
I would go tragically hip.
Yeah, a hip is I wore the Hip T-shirt the other night, right? I love the Hip too.
So for me, Hip is the band that I think I'm not a Hip fan.
Yeah.
And I've like be vilified. I just never.
They were different.
Oh, I know exactly.
Everyone, I was in university and
Yeah.
I just couldn't
With me, it's
You'll be
half the
vilified.
songs.
I know.
No.
I can see this is going to be played.
I can
and
see
there's
exactly
gonna
where you're
be
coming from.
people down-
No, I think that the Hip had lots of misses. But the thing is, they on each album there were 2 or 3 songs that were absolute gems, and the fact that there was so much Canadiana in their songs makes me appreciate them as a band.
I get why people like them, but
Yeah.
I just never connected to
My
any
guy-
of their
my
music, but
guys-
I could see why people liked them, but I just never did.
My guys that I grew up with from your school, because I had 2 different groups I hung around with. The guys like Scott Chipman and Dennis and all those guys, they loved the
big
Hip.
guys.
They loved the Hip, right? So Robbie Campbell loved the Hip. Jamie loved anyway. They love the Tragically Hip, and I know Jamie's going to listen to this podcast, and he'll say, "Hey,
never
the
have
Hip,
Megan back
the
on
Hip, the Hip
again."
is the greatest of all time." But
All right, whose turn?
you know what? Rush had the same reputation because they're so different. It's a different kind of rock music.
Well, and Rush were as much famous for the live performances
Yeah,
as they were for their
100%.
albums. So,
Great topic.
but again,
Two
but,
left.
But Rush, just
Well,
to
April Wine,
put a
come
bow
on.
on it, is Rush is another band I like some of their songs, but I don't get it either.
Yeah, I know. Very different.
No. Glenn's shaking his head. That
Uh-oh.
means it's bad.
Right back at it. Mask versus.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
All right.
but here's the thing.
Yes?
You can't go into a full explanation. I think you just have to say mask or no mask.
Okay, because we already had some of that
Without
conversation
full
early.
explanation,
Yeah.
You have to just say mask or no mask.
Okay, here's mask, no mask. You got 1 minute. Go ahead. 1 minute.
No, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't think we should wear masks.
You have 1 minute.
I just think that it's not good for our immune system to separate us from everything that's out there.
You think that, but is there more beyond thinking it, or did you?
That's not your minute. It's not your minute, Barry. It's your minute.
I'll give him half of my
Yes.
minute.
No,
I'm gonna need more alcohol because I agree with Glenn.
every doctor that's out there that says we should wear them, there's one that says we don't, and I don't get to choose from the ones that don't because they don't fit the narrative that's of the day. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I haven't studied this. I don't like them. I
And-
don't
and
wear
Glenn,
them.
Yeah.
I'll
But I
lead-
don't go
I'll-
anywhere.
Glenn,
and create
hang on.
problems for people that want.
I'll
to.
lead into that. If you want more information on that from Glenn's perspective, go to his podcast because the interview that I did with Glenn just a couple days ago that was launched, there's more information on it. So,
Okay, Dennis. One
Barry,
minute.
go ahead. No,
We're
Barry.
going in a circle.
No, Dennis doesn't want to jump in on this.
He likes to
well, me,
hat.
I'm mask, but I can certainly understand the people that don't like masks. I mean, there's a friend of mine. He has issues wearing masks, and he can't wear it. And one of his frustrations is that people are coming up to him saying, "Why aren't you wearing your mask?"
Yep.
And he doesn't want to have to deal with that all the time. Sure. And he's a very big guy, so I don't know that I'd want to keep on questioning about his lack of mask. But I mean, masks work, but they're not a cure. They're not 100% going to keep people, but they do reduce the transference of the disease from one person to another.
I just think they slow the inevitable. All they do is slow this down
Well,
a little bit. It's
but
still
part of
coming.
but part of what the masks is the inevitable. Yes, it is still coming, but the concept is to flatten it out. So, a number of states in the United States right now, they're reaching 100% occupancy in their ICU.
Where?
They're
Barry, where is this happening? Because I see the other side of the evidence to say hospitals are more empty than they've ever been.
In some areas, but what's happening is it's starting to spread through the central United States, and there are some areas, and I can't tell you exactly which ones, but I've read more than once in the last week or so that hospitals are starting to become crowded in these areas, and I mean, ironically, most of them are Trump areas because Trump's told everyone that don't wear masks and don't do anything and just go die.
Megan?
I don't quite think he said that, but okay.
I want to.
I'm using some artistic license on that. I'm
Megan,
definitely paraphrasing.
I'll ask you the question: do you agree with Glenn or not?
She has to drink again.
It's hard not to like me, isn't it, Megan?
Damn you, Glenn. I'm no mask. I have to wear one as a teacher. I have a very large classroom, so I'm lucky enough that my kids are spaced 2 meters apart, so I don't have to wear a mask in my classroom, which makes it difficult when I have to move to other classrooms and put it back on. I, however, do understand. I have no problem with people wearing a mask, and I have no problem if I went somewhere and they said you need to put a mask on. I would put one on. I refuse. I deserve to be in here without. I'm not going to be a Karen on the floor at Costco refusing to leave unless you give me my 48 rolls of whatever. But
but Megan, you're an athlete,
I watch a lot of
and
videos.
the difficulty in putting on a mask after leaving your classroom to go to another one. I mean, I'm surely as an athlete you've overcome greater difficulties than putting a mask on.
It's not a difficulty. It's a personal choice. So it's not that I think it's a difficulty. It's not.
Oh,
that,
I thought you had used the word difficulty.
Maybe I did. I could have. But I didn't mean it was difficult for me to wear it. The difficulty, I guess I said, was I'm used to not having to wear it, and then I have to now switch my mindset. It's not difficult to wear it. I can wear it, and I do wear it. But I think, for me, I think it should be a choice. Like I said, I sometimes agree with Glenn.
Yeah.
And I think that we are adults, and I would like to think most of us are educated enough to make our own decisions on wearing masks. And I think that it's a very divided topic, and I know whatever I say is going to be on one side or the other, just like flat round. There are people on both sides. But for me personally, I think that I should have the right to not wear a mask if I don't want to.
That's fair.
I just add one thing, Glenn. I'll let
1 second.
Sorry. Listen, this
I
show.
thought you were over.
Oh, I'm never over, baby. I'm never over.
This show is her idea, so it's her floor. Go ahead.
But I also do think, like I said with the Sunday shopping, that businesses have the right to refuse service if people will not wear masks in their own. Like if I owned a business and I said, you need to wear a mask in here, that is my right as the business owner to refuse service if you won't wear a mask. And I fully understand that. But I also have the right to make that decision. Well, I don't want to wear one, so I'm not coming in. Or, okay, I want to, I still want to give you my business. I'm going to put a mask on. I think as an adult, I should be allowed to make that decision.
Yeah.
That's
And you know what? There's really no right or wrong, and that's why we're discussing this type of thing, and maybe to give more information for people that can better educate themselves on what they may do. But as far as the personal right goes, there's a popular comment that I've heard that I like, is that everyone has the right to swing their fist, but your right to swing your fist ends at my face.
True.
And not wearing a mask, because you have the right to not wear a mask, could affect others. And
That's my point. That's where I'm going.
It's a different dichotomy than wear it or don't wear it.
I know.
And it's just like, you know what? Great, then I should be able to just punch Dennis in the nose.
It can happen.
Fair enough.
I've never had that happen in my life, but it can happen.
Oh.
My biggest thing is this. For me, I'm not worried about it. I know my immune system's strong. I supplement my diet every day with the type of vitamins and minerals that we need to have. But I'm worried about my parents. My parents are in their 70s. And even though they have educated themselves through our conversations and things like that, they're susceptible to things that I'm not. Okay? So I wear it for them, not for me. That's just the bottom line. I don't do it for me at all. I do it for them. I'm not afraid to get COVID at all, not one bit. And if something happens to me, it happens. I mean, I could walk across the street tomorrow and get hit by a vehicle. I could get on a plane and that plane could crash. There's so many things that could happen to me. I don't get worked up about that. But when it comes to protecting my parents who are elderly, and you can see with COVID that they are way more susceptible to that. So my brother, my sister, and I have made a conscientious decision that we wear masks to protect others, not ourselves.
Oh, and I don't.
And that's the biggest part of wearing masks.
But when I go out, I wear my mask. But if the question is mask or no mask, if that's all we're asking, my answer would be no mask. But I go out. When I go out, I wear a mask.
Glenn?
Hang on. I want to jump in here just for a second. And my microphone's making a bunch of noises it shouldn't make. But our executive producer, Michael back here, he has no problem wearing a mask. In fact, he prefers it. And I was saying today in the car, I said, look at those two kids in the street. They're walking down the street wearing a mask. Like, that makes no sense. I mean, it seems so stupid because they're outside. And Michael's like, sometimes, Dad, we wear a mask. We don't even know it. And he says, I prefer it sometimes. Like, go from store to store. I don't just put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. He prefers it. I just think if we're educated, that's where I think we lose our is where we disconnect. Is that if we can do more of an education process, and I will say this in Cuba, they have every night in their news, they educate people in the country on what they can do to be part of the solution. And it's all based on education. And even though they say, well, we suggest you to do this or that, it's based on information. And they make good decisions. And that's why their cases are just as low as what ours are here. So that's my 2 cents worth.
All right, last question.
Yeah. And I just wanted to throw in one thing is that I'm a 56-year-old diabetic. So Dennis can sit here and say, I'm not afraid of it. And the thing is, though, Dennis.
But you are. I mean, I know.
Maybe you should be afraid of it because I'm not. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening that are happening.
Barry, I'm not afraid of you punching me in the face either.
Yeah, because I'd never do that. But
you say that now.
But the reality, I mean, I feel fairly confident that I would be okay. Is that it's a type 2 diabetes and such. But the reality is I have one of the underlying conditions that they talk about.
Very much.
And it is a concern for me. And the thing is, what I don't get, honestly, just don't get, it makes no sense to me, is the people that are ultra critical of those that wear masks. I can see where there's a seed of thought that leads to being critical of people that aren't wearing masks because they're a protective measure. But people that choose to wear masks that are being vilified and criticized.
The other thing, too, and Glenn will say this,
sense.
and I want to speak on Glenn's behalf because I don't want him to be, arrows thrown at his back on this, but I think the other thing is that the other side, too, they throw arrows at people for not wearing masks. I mean, just literally.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Both sides are vilified.
When you see people's eyes,
it's the both.
It's just so evident, right?
So there's a lot of issues, but one of the things that breaks my heart is that we've lost with masks now. We lose the ability for probably about 80% of our nonverbal communication because this is where we see
that's
people.
A big challenge and a really good point.
It is, and kids especially when they don't understand how to.
Huge.
I bet.
So that worries me. Like away from COVID and actually, the transmission of COVID, I'm concerned about the mental health of people in general, but children especially, and not understanding what people say and being able to associate expression with words. And it's going to have a cost, and I don't know what the cost is going to be, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but I can tell you, I have very good friends that are in the mental health industry.
Right.
And they're already seeing incredibly sad cases of children that are too young to be depressed that are depressed. And I'm worried that this is a cost that we're going to start to see.
And we don't, and Megan, I think you'll agree with this, you don't hear about that in the press. There's not 1 ounce of room to hear that information. But they're tabulating this information. They're collecting it. That data is being collected.
There's not enough mental health workers to help the amount of students, children who need help on top of that. So
there wasn't before
unless
this
you
started.
are very wealthy and you can privately pay for something.
Right.
It's like 3 weeks.
Enough.
It's 3 weeks
there
to
wasn't
see
enough
somebody.
But one of my concerns, though, is that, and so much of this, again, this has been going on essentially since March. There's still so much we don't know and so much we have to learn about it, and they're working on a vaccine and go as fast as you can to get that vaccine. And hopefully these questions in a year from now will be like, remember when we're worried
So
about
then
that.
here's my question. Will you be first in line to get the vaccine?
If you ask Robert Kennedy Jr., no one should be vaccinated.
I won't be getting the vaccine.
Yeah, Robert Kennedy Jr.
I doesn't
And that's
mean I
Robert
won't
Kennedy's.
ever.
We're talking the Kennedy family. We're talking John F. Kennedy. We're talking Robert Kennedy that have been some of the most influential leaders in the history of the globe. His son says that the amount of
Globe, he says.
the globe. Yeah,
Charlemagne.
exactly, because I believe it. Anyway, Glenn.
But actually, if I could just finish where I was going with
Go ahead, Barry.
with it.
Sorry,
You
Barry.
interrupted
Sorry,
me.
I
know.
apologize.
I'm
Hey, listen,
sorry.
I've
I'm a
interrupted you
yellow.
guys, so
I'm
that's
sorry.
good too. Is that mental health is so important in all this, and it's such a challenge. But I wonder, what is the mental health of a 6-year-old who comes home from school with COVID and their grandmother catches it and dies?
Terrible.
How is that 6-year-old going to deal with that?
There's the balance.
Especially if they weren't doing any protective measures because, well, we mentioned governments. The government of that particular area decided that it wasn't important. I mean, that kid is ruined for life. But the reality is that the social aspects of school and sports and everything else is so important. I mean, Dennis knows how I feel about that, and I know how Dennis feels about that. We
Yes.
both coached youth
Yeah.
sports
For a long time. For over 30
years.
30 years.
I've been coaching youth sports since I was 14.
Yeah.
And
17,
so has
17 for me.
and I appreciate the value in it, and I know that the social aspects of it, I mean, is a mental health issue. But wow, I would hate to have to deal with a child that had to carry that type of guilt with them for a
Well, I
long
mean,
time.
Glenn, you played hockey. Megan, you played multiple sports. Imagine us going through school with no sports. I can't imagine. I don't know how, like, the amount of just lack of motivation. The school dances that we went to, the winter,
No, but dances are different now.
the winter carnivals. I know, but the winter
Kids don't
carnivals.
want to go to dances.
I know,
they
but
think they're lame.
but even the sporting activities today. I'm talking about when we grew up. If we had COVID when we were growing up, it would have been dramatic for us.
Well, Bridgewater's famous.
Parents would have put a Band-Aid on us and said, go to school.
Yeah, but I'm saying how
Walk it off.
What I'm saying is, if we actually took our generations and put it
Yes.
into our situation right now, it would be wow. I mean, it's the word your father and I used the other day was empathy. We have to have empathy for everyone in this situation. It just can't be about us. It can't be about one thing that's right.
It's a black and white answer.
There isn't. You have to have a lot of empathy.
There's absolutely no right answer.
No,
I mean,
Yep.
even if this goes on for another year, we'll probably not
it's
know.
going to.
We're not going to know enough about it to have a solution.
I will say this though, Barry. 12 weeks of isolation was the most difficult time of my whole life. Period. Nothing was more difficult. It was
You never called me once. I was waiting.
I called you.
I was waiting
It's
by
different.
the phone.
My partner had come back right when COVID happened. She had been down in Florida for March break
Right.
in Disney
Yeah.
with her son.
Yeah.
And it was just as they had announced, like everything, like you need to.
Like
come
she's here,
back.
right? You can actually say her name. You're allowed.
I don't know. She might not want her name.
Everybody in town knows.
So
We love Lindsay.
She came. We sure do.
Yeah.
So they got back, and I will tell you, it's the only time. It's the longest we had ever been apart. She was in isolation
Yeah.
for 14 days, and she had to stay in her house with her son. And I mean, there was no contact at all other than chatting on the phone. It's rough. Like, I mean, she had her son, and I'm sure she was okay, but it was rough. I had my boys too, but it's different. Like, it's when you know you can't leave. It's a different,
A big shout out.
it's
A big
different.
shout out to Ken Anthony, one of our alumni in the school. He gave me an apartment to stay in Barrington. I was by myself, like alone.
Thank God for Facebook.
You
What?
know, right? I mean, I'm telling you, I was alone for 14 days.
I went
Who
through
was
it
it?
from a personal point of view as well. My daughter came from Toronto when Toronto was less of a hotspot than it is now, but it was certainly hotter than Bridgewater was. She came down, and for 14 days, she was afraid to come out of her room. Like, she just went to her room that she always had. She'd obviously go to the bathroom, go to the kitchen, that type of thing. But for 14 days, she was being very careful and avoiding us and all that. She was stressed out. And on day 15 were the best hugs I've ever had. And I knew she was struggling with it. But she wanted to come home, kind of to reset and all. And once her quarantine ended, we had a couple of really good weeks with her. And now she's back up in Toronto. And she's dealing with the same issue because, I mean, it's tough for young people. You're sharing apartments, and like Dennis said, you're isolated. All of a sudden, your roommate is gone to stay with their parents or wherever they went, and you're by yourself. And there's nothing.
You only want to be alone with your thoughts for so long before you start to, like...
I can feel it, Glenn. You want to say something?
Yes.
No, I mean, I'm good. Like, it's just...
Get to the other side, right? Get to the other side.
And to answer your question, no, I won't be getting the vaccine, probably ever, because I haven't had a flu vaccine in 12 years.
I haven't either.
I don't get the flu.
I haven't either.
So they're going to have to tell me and hold me down, and probably
it may happen.
May take a few swings at me before they do that.
Pour a little in your drink.
Yeah. Unless there's something comes out in the next little while that portrays COVID to be even more dangerous than anyone thought. I don't think in Canada, at least, we're ever going to get to the point where we're going to be forced to get.
But the next time, it's the next one that comes down the pike that worries me. And look, I if people want to wear a mask, God bless them. Wear a mask if you feel safer wearing a mask.
If you want to get vaccinated, God bless you.
Do it.
Yes.
If you're in a part of the population that is predisposed, the thing is, I respect the distance that I should be. I don't go to stores. Like I order my groceries and go pick them up at curbside pickup now.
Oh, yeah?
I haven't gone to a grocery store in 2 months at least. But there's a way to do it, and there's a way not to do it. And I don't think that people should create scenes like that. That's the wrong way to go about it. And that's where the divisiveness comes in. And that's sad. That divisiveness comes in, and people that I respect in local politics, they do the right thing, and I don't think there is a right thing. As long as you do it right, like if I feel ill, or I'm not going to go up to cough on people, I'm not going to go up and create a scene. I've been asked to leave stores. I've said thank you and left, and that's just the way I want to do it. I know people that don't want to wear masks. We find each other. We're kind of like flat earthers. We all find each other. We hang out.
Boy.
We start clubs.
Like a magnet.
That's the one you didn't agree with.
But and they're not
flat maskers. Flat maskers.
The north
No
and
maskers.
south. Wait,
Flat-
no, just east and
flat
west.
Flat maskers.
No, north
Wow.
and south.
North is in the middle. We can talk about that later.
Okay.
Or not.
So
Yeah. But just as and I'll let you continue.
yeah, sure,
but
no,
but
I'm good.
But my comment is, and you said you don't feel like you need to wear a mask to be safe. I don't wear a mask for me to be safe.
Well, but that's part of the narrative, Barry, and I think that you heard that from somebody, and this is part of it. It's
okay.
It's the theme that they.
Hang on. Hang on.
But
No,
I want Barry.
He's not being
Barry.
disrespectful.
Orange
No, no.
juice.
Here's the thing.
Or no pulp.
The one thing I saw.
Yeah, let's go to that one because you know what?
Yeah, we
could
should.
talk about masks for another
We
5
should.
hours.
No, the last
and,
one.
and there's value in masks.
We're trying to move on,
Here's the thing,
Dennis.
Barry-
Just
Dennis
let us
likes-
go.
I'm the host.
Dennis
I'm the
likes
host.
closing
You don't get
remarks.
it this time. No,
I'm the host.
no.
I think we need-
Yeah.
You
need
have
better
said
rules.
I was gonna
multiple
ask you to do one
times
thing for 3
that
seconds.
I'm the one who started this podcast,
man. Turn
Friday
off everybody's
Fishbowl
mics.
Friday.
All right,
You
Meg.
get
All
to
right.
choose if we go on to
Okay.
the next
I'm
question.
saying,
Mr. Trump's mic. Turn
All
off
right.
Mr.
Yeah.
Trump's mic.
Yeah, mute. Go ahead, Megan. Go ahead.
okay.
Oh, wow. This is a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to segue into
Orange
this.
juice.
Oh, by the way, your art is really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. All of it or just some pieces?
Oh,
Is that
I mean,
permanent, or was
honestly,
that-
I'm not the biggest tattoo fan, but I
Yeah.
can appreciate art. And
I
that's-
had a
that's
woman
beautiful.
who was in her 60s who came up to me in Dollarama and said almost the exact same thing I was paying. And she said, "Excuse me, your tattoos are beautiful."
I get compared
I
to
don't really
60-year-old
like
women
tattoos.
all the time. It's just happened so often. I'm
God,
getting
my
uncomfortable.
shoulder's so itchy. I just can't. Oh, my shoulder's so itchy. Hang on.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I'm better now.
Yes, mine are very.
Yours is much.
I get all my work done down at Nick and Mary's tattoo place down on King Street. And
There you go.
Tuesday did this one for me. I won it.
Awesome.
Wow.
And he
Is it
did
for
an
having the
amazing
most
job.
TikTok followers in Bridgewater?
No, I donated a turkey and got my name in a draw at Christmas.
Donated it to
And if you look, I
So
think
at
there's some
Christmas, they,
similarity right over here. I see colors that are similar, right?
Well, so part of the lotuses
Absolutely.
grow out of, dirt and dark places, and so I got it after I came out, and as something beautiful.
I love
can
it.
always come out of a
I
dark
love it.
place.
I love it.
And,
And that's the big thing about Megan's podcast is being launched next week, and you should really,
Watch it.
tune into it. 'Cause it's a great story. It's a
Better watch
great
it,
story. Yeah, it is.
It's
I'm
it's a
just gonna-
coming of age story.
It is.
I'm going
It's
to
a story.
like it. I'm
Are
going
you?
to like it.
I will like yours, but I will
But you'll
also
comment.
Comment. Yeah. Comment for sure.
Oh no, I've got.
Or can I just put like a bunch of emojis? Like I'll put globe, donut, globe, globe, donut.
Pizza.
Yeah,
You can do whatever you want.
yeah. Thumbs up.
Pineapple.
Anyway, I appreciate that. These
We
are
have one more
probably
question.
two of my
Like
favorites.
if we ever wanted to go home at some point
I know.
before Saturday.
What's the question?
Orange juice, pulp or no pulp, and you only have to say pulp or no pulp, and
Okay.
you're not allowed to explain why.
Glenn?
Don't drink it
Never.
ever.
I did for the longest time, but I
No,
had
the answer is pulp or no pulp, Dennis. No explanation.
10 years.
No
Pulp.
pulp. All
Pulp.
right.
Pulp.
Pulp. Yeah.
Oh God.
If you're
people.
going,
no pulp.
There. Thanks everybody for tuning in tonight.
Yeah.
To
No,
Weekly
hang on,
Woodcast
hang on, no.
Fishbowl Fridays.
No,
I'm
hey,
Dennis
listen.
Woodworth.
Yeah, no. The first thing I want to do is just thank you guys for being here because it's something that Megan had an idea of, and I really believe
I'd
it's
just like
done.
to argue.
Did you
Oh.
pick the people that you wanted to come?
No, I did.
I said flat earther needs to
yeah,
be there.
he has to be there.
I didn't even call you by name. I said flat earther needs to be there.
Now you know my name.
And I do.
do.
And hang
I
on.
knew it at that time too. But
I do want to thank Boston Pizza for doing a great job for us by providing. And I do want to ask people to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, like the page on Facebook,
come up with topics for the next
listen to us on
round.
Spotify or Apple. And the bottom line is that
Interesting topics.
the next Fishbowl Friday is going to be topics that our fan base will actually write in,
Can I
and it will discuss.
Can
I
we add-
recommend a rule? Can we? None of
No,
us at
Glenn,
the table should
no.
know the topics. Like you shouldn't know the topics beforehand. Mike should pick them.
I didn't know the topics.
You did know the topics.
No, I didn't.
Well, that's not what I heard.
I think somebody
So
is lying.
I think
As a teacher, we have tells.
I knew.
I would,
made
I
the
would like them
topics,
to be
man.
complete. Yeah, I would like to be
Sure.
completely unknown to us.
Sure. I mean, that's no problem.
And I would actually like to see some type of formatting rules that we can have. So maybe we have
can I
2
add
minutes
some-
each or
yeah.
something like
And
that.
you know what else we should do?
I don't think that should be the case because if you're more
All right, well,
knowledgeable in the
that's fine.
subject, I think you should take
Okay.
more time. Barry,
Here's
same
what
way.
I think we should do.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yes.
Because my ideas are always awesome.
Well, you're the captain of the team
Yeah,
on
we
the
should-
Fishbowl
we should
Fridays.
we should have a talkie bear. So
They're,
when you hold the
oh
talkie
my
bear.
God, we
I-
don't
you
want to
know
go
what I
through
have in my
that.
classroom?
I would have thought you
I
were the
have the
last
Swedish
person to
chef.
suggest
Oh,
that.
totally.
Are you holding
Totally
the stick?
joking.
It's the
Give me that
Swedish
stick.
chef. No, we use the Swedish chef in my classroom.
I
we have
love
a
it.
circle. The Swedish chef goes around making the popcorn. Okay,
That's the
off
Muppets,
topic.
guys. By the way, that if you haven't heard about the
Making
Swedish
popcorn-
chef,
Okay, I thought you were telling us. No,
not
we
the
were-
Swedish chef from the
Never
Muppets.
heard of the Muppets or the
Yeah.
Swedish Chef.
Yeah.
So we bring whiteboards. I've got whiteboards in my classroom.
Okay.
All of the questions have to have yes or no, true or false, Trump or Biden.
Uh-huh.
And all of us, whoever's here, write down one of it. That's it. And at the same time,
Show
we
it.
all flip it, and then you discuss.
So should
Can
this
you-
should
can we
these
get those all on
should,
camera?
okay?
We'll
So
have
here's
to
the thing:
point
should this discussion for
Glenn, I wanna hear you
developing
say,
our
"Wow,
show
Megan,
should
that
be
was
made
a good
off
idea."
camera
Oh
rather than
my
on camera?
goodness, Megan,
The
you are
constructive
brilliant.
building of the show should actually come off camera.
No,
No,
because
why
then
not?
you take
On
credit,
camera.
and
You
then
don't think
people
it's a
now
good
can
subject?
Go, no,
I take credit for nothing on this show.
So you're saying the subject of how the show should go is not interesting enough for your audience? I mean,
Can we get wings next week?
Okay. I need someone from Boston Pizza to call in to security for the Fishbowl Fridays and have somebody come over, take care of my executive producer behind me and all of my associates here because we're getting a little out of hand. But anyway, it's been
we need some good topics.
informative. I mean,
Yep.
it's been informative. We want to reach out to the listeners that want to participate in this and actually give us some subjects so we can talk about them.
and the other thing, I mean, we're thinking out loud here now, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be that way every time because sometimes
No.
it might be that a topic comes up that really everyone's going to be interested in. Something has happened, and let's talk about this. That's one you want to know what the topic is, so you can do a little bit of research and be more comfortable.
If you ask my partner, Lindsay, I don't like to research. I'm more of a dive in.
Lindsay.
No, really?
And speak first.
Okay,
and
I'm gonna.
regret
Hey,
later.
you asked me to ask her, so I'm going to ask her. Lindsay, is she a researcher? No. Yeah.
I am a diver in.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm both. I'm not.
I can tell.
I'm not afraid to jump in without doing the research.
Lindsay's the researcher.
But I prefer
I'm
to
the
have.
jump in and just say whatever comes into mind, and the little guy in my head goes, "Stop."
Okay,
Stop,
so
stop.
Barry, you're Blake Shelton. You're Adam Lambert, I guess. You know.
I'll take Blake Shelton. You can have Adam Lambert.
I don't swing that way anymore, Barry. I don't want Adam Lambert.
No, I mean as a singer. As a talent.
Who's your favorite Justice League member?
Wow.
Okay, well.
Uh-oh.
Green Lantern.
Hey, that's the next Fishbowl Friday.
Listen.
Next Fishbowl Friday.
There's a couple good
Aquaman?
choices on there.
There's only one answer.
Yeah, but Cavill's a pretty good looking guy too.
No, there is only
But you're
one
right,
answer.
Jason Momoa. I mean,
saying.
Aquaman.
I have a
Aquaman
picture of
is
Jason
like-
Momoa and I in my classroom on the wall that says, "If you dream it, you can do it."
Here's the deal. I grew up. I grew up reading comics at a very young age, and I would literally read hundreds of comics a month.
Yeah.
And Aquaman was like the most unusable hero of the Justice League. Are we fighting in the ocean? Yes. Then we better have Aquaman. But if we're fighting anywhere else, let's leave him home.
he's like a
Have you
nipple.
seen Aquaman?
But then,
Let's.
But then they brought Momoa.
Yeah. No.
And
Let's.
now
Kathy,
everyone's like,
you
"Can
go
we
that way,
please
honey."
Fight in the water.
The thing is that if you ask the majority of women on the planet their favorite comic book hero right now, you know where the answer is going to be.
Okay,
Right?
have
Some
you
of them
ever
say
just
Wonder
watched
Woman.
Jason?
Some of them say Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman is a straight woman. Now you need to any woman that's not true. Any straight woman maybe, but not.
Well,
She's-
I'm asking
Gal
Megan.
Gadot.
She
I know,
says
but-
Aquaman.
I know, but what I'm saying is, I don't want to have. Listen, I don't
She's
want to
not
have
straight.
sex with Aquaman.
No,
But have
you think he's
ever-
sexy?
Oh, yes.
But Ben,
We had this discussion though.
Okay, okay.
You can be gay and think men.
I
are
know,
hot. You
I
can
agree.
be- you can
I
think
totally
the
agree.
opposite
Thank you,
sex
Megan.
Are hot.
listen,
And not,
listen. I'm a lesbian.
I appreciate that.
I'm a lesbian.
You're welcome.
So I
Anytime.
mean, it's just the bottom line
Aren't
is
we
that
all
we'll
in
save
here?
that topic for next week. Once again, thank you to Boston Pizza. Big shout out to Boston Pizza across Canada. Of course, our local Boston Pizza in Bridgewater.
Thank you,
engage,
Shirley.
engage in the
Thank you, Shirley.
conversation. Engage in the conversation. Engage in and subscribing to the channel and liking the page on Facebook and find us on Spotify and on Apple and we look forward to the next Fishbowl Friday very shortly. So send us those topics.
Is it next Friday, Dennis?
It's next Friday, Glenn. Next Friday.
Are you going to be here, Glenn?
Yes.
I'm
I
not.
don't know. We'll have to.
No,
wait
I'm
and
not.
see.
And then we can bring somebody in to replace Barry for a week.
I'm going to be
Can
on.
I pick somebody?
Blake Shelton will not be in the studio. He's recording
Can we
an
phone
album.
a friend?
Yeah, we can bring a friend in. Sure. Depends. And we're not talking the diapers either. Anyway, thanks for joining us on the Weekly Woodcast with Dennis and Michael Woodworth. And thank you to all of our
Wonder Twins.
home
No,
team
whatever.
for Fishbowl Fridays. And Megan, a great job. And if you're not following Megan on TikTok yet, you should, because she's going to try to get
At Megan Walker 3. Well, get it, Glenn,
I'm trying
and
to
just follow me.
500,000. We want to get Megan to 500,000.
We're trying. Well, okay. You
Half
you
a
got
million,
big
Megan.
goals. If
Half
you
a
dream
million.
it, you can do it.
Jason Momoa. Next Friday on Fishbowl Fridays. We'll see you soon. Take care. I'm Dennis Woodward.